Welcome, welcome. As you see, tonight's presentation is going to be on citrus. We have some fun things planned. Number of activities besides our speakers. But I did want to get started here. Before I do, let me make a quick announcement. Number one, cell phones. Please turn off your cell phones or put them to vibrate. If you need to have conversations on your phone or with members, please be respectful to our speakers and to the other people in the meeting, and go outside rather than making noise so it's hard to hear. I guess sometimes people find it distracting to have people having separate conversations outside the meeting. So if you would, have those conversations outside, we'd appreciate it very much. Tonight's meeting is on citrus. We are going to be discussing varieties of citrus. David Yetz is going to come up and give you a very nice presentation on varieties, a little bit on history of citrus. I'll pick up the second half of the presentation talking about pests and diseases of citrus, some things that are new, some things that are common, and some ways of controlling those or dealing with them. And then Jim Neitzel was planning on a budding demonstration. Jim, are we still in line for that? We'll be doing a budding demonstration on citrus. For those of you who want to bud citrus trees, we'll be doing a budding demonstration before we break for refreshments. In addition to the program, we were able to line up a group citrus purchase, which hopefully you saw online or in the newsletter about the group citrus purchase. We do have updated availability lists, so if you had a chance to take a look at those and are interested in some of those, unfortunately some were very limited and are no longer there. But as of yesterday morning, there was still quite a few things of interest available, and if you are interested in making that purchase, then if you could see Karen Lacombe over here at the end of the table during break, we'll tally up your purchase and make the order. The items do have to be paid for tonight if you wish to get them. So some pretty rare things, some things that aren't readily available from local nurseries are available, and it's a good opportunity to go in as a group and purchase these from wholesalers that normally won't deal with us on a one-on-one basis. They want a quantity. So good opportunity for us to get some interesting things. At this point, I want to open up the floor to our committee chairs. One last thing. Before I open up to the rest of our committee chairs, all of you are aware we have committees in place now. The committees are posted on the walls over there. There are a number of members who have already volunteered some time, and if you have time or interest to sign up occasionally and participate, feel free to put your name on that list, and we'll ask you to come and help us from time to time whenever your time is available. We do have a new committee that is formed, and that's our publicity committee. And David Silverstein has volunteered to help us with putting out press releases and news bulletins, getting them out to the channels to make the announcements of events and meetings and activities. And he could really use some help from anyone who might have desktop publishing skills or would like to help him contact these things. I could see very possibly we'll need flyers from time to time, we'll need signs from time to time, we'll need things to send out that if any of you have experience or just like playing with desktop publishing and maybe want to take on a project, would love it. Doesn't mean you're going to be responsible for all of it. One of the more exciting things we have coming up is our Day at the Fair, where CRFG is sponsoring the Day at the Fair, and we will be hosting the Taste of the Fair on Friday, June 25th. And that will be the CRFG publicly announced day. They'll be making announcements on the radio, but it'd also be great to have flyers at the local nurseries. And many of the local nurseries would hand out flyers to their customers, or have flyers at our CRFG booth. We're going to be there long before that, and we should let people know. So at our CRFG booth, hey, by the way, June 25th, we're going to be having our day at the fair. Come and hear our speakers. So if you are interested in participating on one or more than one of those types of things, please feel free to sign up and volunteer whatever time is much, much appreciated. With that, I'm going to open it up. We have a couple of announcements for our committees. Any of our committee chairs like to come up and make an announcement or have a moment? Dave Long. Dave Long is our chair for the philanthropy committee. And
well, good evening, everyone. I think it's always best to be first, that way I get it out of the way. Just to follow up a little bit on what Tom is saying about the committees that are out there, it's always good to be involved. It's very rewarding, and as Benjamin Franklin had said, that laziness travels so slowly that poverty soon overtakes it. So you can always say, well, maybe later, but it's very rewarding to be involved and to see the fruits of your labor. So anyways, the Philanthropy Committee. We've already met twice, and we've had some pretty major discussions about what to do, where to go. Right now we are still in the brainstorming. One of the things that we were discussing, which is very important, is do we use the full amount of money or do we use the interest only? Now, it is only $40,000. $40,000 is a lot of money, but at today's interest rates, that's not enough to really help one person, let alone a major amount. So we're looking at ways of a multi-year process of using this money. Some of the general directions that we were looking at is creating educational opportunities such as scholarships in college and high school. Questionable as far as some scholarships is good for one or two individuals, but they usually use the scholarship, they finish with what their project is, and then they move on. They're not involved too much. We were looking at developing projects that can be used to create an income stream within our chapter. Those are always possibilities. We were looking at possibly buying equipment that the club can utilize to work with that. Again, these are all just ideas. There's nothing that we're going to be coming up with. Jim Neitzel did say something which I thought was right on with it. He said that Paul liked a hands-on approach to things and felt that doing an activity was worth much more than a PhD telling you about it. So a lot of what we want to try to do is get things that will involve people. So specifically, we have a very good relationship with Southwest College? Southwest College. They've already volunteered to let us use a lot of their horticultural stuff. They have a greenhouse down there, a lot of equipment. It's already been volunteered for us to use. We can work with some of the students that are there, and they could manage some of the things that we may be starting if we get collecting plants for sales later on this fall or next spring. They could work on that. We could work with extra credit with the professors, possibly a small stipend. Good benefit to that. We could also look at things that would generate income. Like a lot of people are very interested in grafting. One of the ideas is that you have an actual grafting class where the people who come in are going to graft 5 to 10 different plants, 5 to 10 different trees. If they get to take one home. All the rest of them go towards a plant sale for the club. That kind of educational stuff is worthwhile. You can really get going into that. Other ideas that were floated is publishing Paul Thompson's book on Pizza Highs. Another thing was to create presentations and information that can go onto our website. Similar to if you Google or look for some of the different fruit facts, you can get something from CRFG Inc. and it's invaluable to find out what type of plant it is, more information. Work with school and children, work with community gardening programs. Again, these are all just different things. So a lot was discussed. What we really need from you is your ideas. Right now we are still brainstorming. We would like to have some things that we can present to the board as some solid ideas by this summer, which isn't very long from now, given that we only meet once a month on this. The more ideas that we have, the broader reach that we can make, and we will be able to have things that will represent what this membership would like to see happen. So please, give us your ideas, put them in our, I want to say the opportunity tree, but the little communication tree that we have over there. Just drop us a line or see me or any of the people that are on our committee. Come visit us at our committee meetings. You're more than welcome, and if you let me know, I'll get you the directions on how to get there. Meets the second Thursday of every month at 6:30. And as a parting, another one from Benjamin Franklin. He said, "Blessed is he that expects nothing, for he will never be disappointed." So, please, enjoy.
Thank you very much, Dave. An important role to try to figure out what we're going to do with this, and really appreciate the work that those folks are doing on that. Anyone else of the committees wants to make a quick announcement?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm Kevin with the Refreshment Committee. Just want to thank everyone for your contributions today. The table looks awesome. We actually had to spread out to another table. So one of these days we'll have all 6 of those tables filled. Anyway, next month we're asking specifically those members with last names that begin with P through T to contribute to our refreshment table. And everyone's welcome to contribute if you have some fruits you want to put on the table. Thanks.
I'm Aaron with the Bylaws Committee, and I can just report that so far we've been working on via email, and I'm asking that the members meet for about 5 minutes after the presentation in the back, just so we can get going on the next phase. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron, and very.
Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Dave Silverstein. I think I was introduced earlier in absentia. I'm the publicity committee. I can always use help, and I can particularly use people who are easy with putting things together on a computer and that sort of stuff, and people who write well, or even who think they write well. Anyway, the sign-up sheets are back, and I encourage you to sign up. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Eric, and I'm with the Community Outreach Committee. We're at the Cuyamaca College Spring Garden Show this past Saturday, and it was a great time. We had a large turnout. I wanted to say thanks to Tom for donating fruit. Jim Neitzel donated fruit as well, and helped me staff the booth. And thanks to Dave Yutz for helping with the fruit sampling. Our next event is the Claremont Garden Tour, which is coming up this Saturday, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you're at the garden tour, stop by and say hi. After that, our next big event is going to be the Del Mar Fair, which is, I guess, about 5 or 6 weeks away now. And I'll be looking for volunteers, lots and lots of volunteers. I'll post an announcement in next month's newsletter. And after I get our time slots for the North County chapter, I'll probably send out an email. So if you want to volunteer, now's the time to do it. And as Tom mentioned, we'll also be hosting a Society Day on Friday, June 25th. We're going to have 4 speakers. It's going to start at 12:30, and I think the last speaker will probably be wrapping up around 6:30. And they will be speaking from the Flower and Garden Show stage. And I'll publish that schedule in next month's newsletter. Thanks.
Last but not least, I'm Paul with the Ways and Means Committee, and we have been meeting and working out some different ideas to help bring some income into the club. Of course, we've got a couple vendors. One of them is myself, and this gentleman here. He'll explain what he brought tonight. We've got all the different Tula hats available that are the finest hats they've ever tested by Cal Poly for no transmittance of the rays that cause skin cancer. As I know, I just had an inch of my lip taken off. I've got the product of the year, roticide of all you, as you know, growing fruit. Those rats sure love it too. And you get in your attic and everything else, this will take care of your problem within a week out of your attic and everywhere else. It's paraffinized, so water doesn't affect it. It's an excellent product. And it comes in a 9-pound bucket, and there's several other things on the table for you to take a look at. And he'll explain what he brought today.
Hey folks, I'm Dennis Exline from Rose Cottage Fruits, where my wife and I are established from National City
Use your
College.
microphone, please.
For $5. Okay. We sell dried fruits and eggs, and we also sell at farmers markets. And you guys were talking about a CSA. Well, there is one available. You sign up online. It's a 12-week commitment, and it's an enhanced package. You pay $15, you get about $18 or $20 worth of produce every week. And you have to pick it up depending on which location it is at a certain time before the market closes. And it's a pretty good value, and I have cards for the website for you guys if you want to come to the table and take a look. Thank you.
One thing I wanted to mention, if any of you do know any vendors, anybody would like to come to the meeting and offer to sell some things that might be beneficial to all of us, you don't have to drive all over town, waste gas finding products that you need for your hobby here, let me know. Give me a call and see if people would like to come on down. Thanks.
Sorry, one more committee member. I'm Andy, chair of the National Garden Development Committee. Just a quick note, down at Southwestern College, we put in the dragon fruit, and next we'll be putting in blueberries. We're also probably going to be getting a class, I'm not sure when, dedicating the Pitaya collection to Paul Thompson, and continue with Southwestern.
Okay, the propagation committee is growing. We have quite a few people now. We have lots of stuff to propagate, and hopefully people are planting up their big avocado seeds and some cherimoya seeds and whatever comes to
Low crop
mind.
seeds right now. Low crops are right.
Talking about low crops, I brought in on this table down this way by the citrus 5 or 6 varieties, seedling varieties. Maybe when you taste them, you could make a comment which you like and which you don't like and so forth. Other than that, in the newsletter, you'll see we're going to be doing some grafting seminars, one on mango and things like that, so check that out. And next month, we'll be doing berries. We should have gobs of blueberries. Ramiro Lobo says that he's going to bring down lots and lots of blueberries. And then anybody that has experiences with the cane berries, maybe we can put together sort of an informal panel on that. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
All right, last month, we had a cherimoya tasting contest, or not a contest, cherimoya tasting. And I wasn't here because I was on a business trip, but I saw pictures of the table. It looked awesome. I don't know how many of you were here and participated in that, but I think we had about 19 different cherimoya varieties to taste from. I wanted to tell you the results of the ratings that people submitted. The variety that got the most #1 votes was Nada, Cherimoya. And then number 2 was Pierce, and then the highest rated member contributed Cherimoya was Paul Fisher's Merritt Mountain. I will have all of the results available. We're going to post them on the website, so you can check them out there, and anyone who wants a copy, I can get you some. All right?
Do you have the numbers that they were in the taste test
Correspond to.
I have, yes, I do.
Because that's all we knew.
Yeah. Well, okay, so table or plate number 3 is Nada. Plate number, let's see, number 2 is, plate number 9 is Pierce, which came in second. And then plate number 6 was 3, which is the Paul Fisher, Cherimoya. And then I have the table or the plate numbers for the rest of them as well. Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you committee chairs and for all your work, and everybody's been participating. And again, we'd love to have anyone who has time to join in when you can. I know we're all very busy. Ron Huroff had a quick announcement he wanted to make, so I'm going to open up the floor to him.
I'll begin. Does this work? Can you hear me? Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, I'll be giving a talk on my plant explorations over at UCSD. It'll be at neurobiology, room 1103. I give it periodically. I've given this talk here several times, so if anybody's interested, let me know. Also, I talked to Tom real quickly about, I got an urgent email a couple of days ago that the gasoline tree that I've been working on for several years is in danger of being lost. And so several other groups here in town have what they call conservation committees. So I'm going to gather information, and basically it's for habitat preservation. At the same time, we can get seeds and propagating material from rare fruits that are in these areas. This particular area is in the Cordillera of the northern Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ron. I have a couple of announcements as well that I would like to remind folks. The San Diego County Fair, Del Mar Fair, is coming up. Carol Graham is again organizing members to staff our booth. Her information, contact information is in the website as well as on the newsletter. The best time to reach her is evenings. And we have posted on the website a full description of what's involved, parking, tickets, any questions you might have. Please use the website for that, but we really can use members' help there. Just to let you know, we get money back every year for our participation in the San Diego County Fair. Last year, how much did we get from that? $200 from the San Diego County Fair last year went back to the group. To let you know, the Master Gardeners, San Diego County Master Gardeners, get an average of $1,200 to $1,500 every year from the San Diego County Fair. And the reason why is because they have people staffing it every day for the entire shift of that fair. If we did something like that, we could look at getting increases as well. So it's great we get $200. But the reason why they get more than we do is because we don't staff it as continuously as the Master Gardeners staff their booth. And that's our own fault. So if we want to see more money come back to the club so that we can do more things, this is a way we could do it. And it just needs participation from members who get free entrance to the fair, and it's a great way to publicize our group. Carol is the contact person. Please contact Carol on that. Something else that's really a brand new idea and something that we should take advantage of with the fruit season ahead of us is the new fruit exchange project. the fruit exchange, many of us, I'm guilty of this as well. I have fruit going to waste every year. Fruit drops down to the ground. I don't have time to harvest it up and bring it somewhere. I can't eat it all. It's a shame, and it makes me very sad. And so our fruit exchange is a program that hopefully will give members an outlet to post their surplus fruit on the website. And if you're interested in getting loquats or Bear's limes, we have limes available right now, you simply contact the person in charge of the fruit exchange, say, hey, I'd love some of those limes, or I'd love to get some loquats, or I have surplus mandarins, and that way it doesn't go to waste. And this would be something that I think we can all benefit from, whether you would like to have star fruit and don't have a star fruit tree, or maybe you have an excess amount of white sapote. I know Wayne Guidry has a 60-foot white sapote, and no one can eat all the fruit a 60-foot white sapote gives you. So it's a great way to share this with other members who could benefit. I do have one more announcement, and this is a free community workshop on Saturday, May 1st from 10:30 to 12 o'clock on the topic of healthy and safe gardening. The speaker is Carol Kennan, who is an environmental horticulturalist and a licensed pest control advisor. And they are going to be located at 45 Ranch Library on Reserve Drive in San Diego. If you're interested in this, I'm going to put the flyer over here by our table. You can take down the information on this. And Ed Hamilton, is there a website or somewhere else they can go to get this information? There he is. Ed, is there this flyer information posted somewhere?
Yeah, back here.
Okay, we have flyers on the back membership table as well. If you'd like to attend, pick up a flyer. Any other announcements from the floor?
You just mentioned everybody having leftover fruit. There's a woman named Jackie's Jams, and if you give her 30 pounds of cleaned fruit, she can turn it into jam for you for $180. And she's also available at the farmers markets.
Very nice. So a good way to get some yummy jam, Djibouti Kava jam. Yum, yum, yum. All right. Anyone else like to have anything you want to share with the group?
The Sand Tree Fest is in Santee on Saturday from 9 to 12. We're going to be doing some tree planting, and it's always good when people who are interested in fruit trees show up at those kind of events.
And one last thing. New members, do we have any new visitors at the meeting for the first time tonight? Hi, could you just introduce yourself briefly, let us know what area of town you're from, and what brings you to our meeting? Anyone?
I'm Ben, I'm from San Carlos, I've been growing some fruit trees, really interested in mangoes, sapotes, if you have any tips, let me know, thanks.
Anyone else?
I'm Rich, I'm also from San Carlos. I've got quite a few trees. I've got a Chirimoya that doesn't bear the kind of fruit I want people to see from 10 or 15 years old. Number of others.
Well, you have to come to our grafting workshop and learn how to top work. Anyone else?
My name is George, I'm from La Mesa, and I have a few different types of trees, and I'm here to listen and see if anybody has any info for me, any hot tips or whatnot.
I'm Jay Davis. I'm from the Mendocino area. I was without the class. That should be all I need.
I would suggest that the new people, if they would leave a little message with Cielo, and their name and phone number and so forth, that we can contact them and maybe help out with information or whatever.
Yeah, for our new visitors here, one of the things we really want to do is hook you up with people who have experience in the areas you're interested in. And I know we can't get everything going all immediately, but we are trying, and one of our efforts is to pair you up with people who have similar interests that can help answer your questions or give you resources to go to. So come back and visit us, and hopefully we'll be getting you in touch with the right people. And if you have questions at all, feel free to talk to myself or our membership committee or some of our other members, and we'll point you in the right direction. With that, I'd like to go ahead and start our program, and so I'm going to introduce David Yetz. David, many of you are familiar with already as our past president of the Rare Fruit Growers and horticulturalist at the Water Conservation Garden. He has a great deal of love and interest in citrus, grows in a lot of these varieties, and he's going to come and give us the benefit of his experience.
Good evening. Okay. We're very fortunate in San Diego to be able to grow a lot of citrus. If you can go to the next slide. And I'm going to go over quite a few of them, but I can't cover all of them. Next slide. And I'm going to go over a little bit of the history of citrus. A few years ago, scientists did a lot of studies, and they found that contrary to what a lot of people think, there were originally only 3 types of citrus. When people refer to citrus, they think of oranges, lemons, limes, that kind of thing. But in reality, the 3 citrus that are the ancestors of all of them are the citron, pomelo, and mandarin. They did this by doing DNA studies and things like that. Next slide, please. The citron is a fruit that is very old. This one, the citron, is used in the Jewish festival of the Tabernacles. And citrons like this can go for up to $80 to $100 a piece. They have to be grown on their own rootstock. They can't be grafted. It has to be a perfect fruit for the festival. This is one of the 3. So from this and the other 2, pomelo is the second one. It's not a grapefruit, even though a lot of people think it is. It's an ancestor of the grapefruit. And the third one is the mandarin. This originally came from China. So from these 3, we get all the other things. In other words, if you cross a pomelo with a mandarin, you get a sweet orange. You cross a citron with a pomelo, you could get a lemon, and there's a lot of cross bats and things like that. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the history of citrus in California. It was started in 1873. The original tree is still in Riverside County. The group did a field trip recently to UCR, University of California, Riverside, and we visited this tree. Go to the next slide, please. Budwood was ordered from Bahia, Brazil, and shipped to Washington, D.C., and then to Riverside in 1873. And this was a navel orange. We got the name Washington navel because it went through Washington, D.C. to get to Riverside. Next slide. And that started the industry of citrus in California. Some of the Washington navel budwood was also sent to places like Florida, where it didn't do quite as well. The Washington navel orange got too big in Florida because of the humid weather, and it wasn't as tasty, wasn't as sweet. So it did much better in California. So all of the navel oranges can be traced back to the parent tree. Next slide, please. And this is it right here. It's at the corner of Magnolia and Arlington Street in Riverside. The navel orange, of course, was named because it does produce what looks like a navel at the bottom of the fruit. Again, this tree was planted in about 1873. Here it is in 1910. Let's go to the next slide. There's some signage, some bronze signs that commemorate the tree from Brazil in 1870, and then was planted out in 1873. Here I am just a month or so ago when I visited the site. This is the tree right here. It's over 130 years old. Pretty amazing. Closer look at the trunk of the tree. It may be a little bit hard to see, but this has been in-arched grafted. The original tree was grafted onto a sweet orange, and if you know anything about the rootstocks, they're normally put on a sour orange or a trifoliate orange. Those roots are stronger than the sweet orange. So at that time in 1870s, they didn't really realize that. So let's go to the next slide. This is how the tree looked in 1918. It was at a decline, so they did what's called in-arching. They planted other rootstocks, like a trifoliate orange, and then they grafted it at this point. You see all these different grafts. This is the same tree in 2010. You can see that these grafts have grown up. This is the original trunk. It suffered from a disease called gummosis, which completely girdled the tree. And at this point, this part of the trunk is doing nothing. It's just dead wood. So if it wouldn't have been for the in-arching, the original navel orange would not be alive today. Again, many of the varieties do well in San Diego County. We're really blessed that we have almost a perfect climate for a lot of citrus. One that when we do our booth at like the Spring Festival and things like that, one that really gets a lot of attention is the Buddha's hand when we bring the fruit in. This is a citron, one of the 3 original. This is used as a perfume. If you put it into a room, it will, for over 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, you'll have a nice fragrance of orange. It also makes a nice marmalade. There's really no fruit inside here. It's basically all skin and pith, but it does make a very delicious marmalade. Next slide, please. This is one of my favorite cocktail, and a lot of people mistakenly refer to this as cocktail grapefruit. I wish they wouldn't, because it doesn't have any of the bitterness that grapefruit has. And it doesn't have any grapefruit in its parentage. It is a cross between the Siamese sweet pomelo and the Frua mandarin. It's just, in my opinion, one of the top 5 citrus because of the flavor. It does have a lot of seeds, but if you put this into a juicer and you strain out the seeds, it makes an incredible juice. Once you taste it, you always want more. I brought some information. I'll have some of these in the back on Valentine. It's one of UCR's promising new introductions. I was able to get budwood from Valentine a couple months ago, and I grafted some of this onto some of my rootstock, and hopefully it will take. But this is one of the best. When I was at UCR, I tasted this, and it's a delicious pomelo, and it has this really nice dark red color to it, even with very little cold or heat, which, you know, a lot of citrus, they need the cold or the heat to really get the red color to them. Again, this was, go back one more, please, Neil. One of the parents of this one was the Siamese sweet pomelo, same parent as cocktail grape. Next. Dancy is a common one. A lot of people have this in their backyard. It's known as the Christmas mandarin or tangerine, but it's still, in my opinion, one of the true tasting tangerines when you think of mandarin or tangerine. And by the way, tangerine and mandarin can be used interchangeably. They're synonymous. I don't think there's no real difference between the two. It does have a lot of seeds though, but it peels very nice, and the taste is good. It's not the best, but it is a good and a very high producing tangerine. Cara is a good one. Not too many people have this, but it has more of a spicy flavor to it than most of your tangerines. Next. Nova, I noticed that someone brought in some Nova mandarin on the tasting table back there, so you can sample some of this. This is one of the best. When I went to UCR a couple months ago, I tasted this off the tree. It's delicious. It does have a few seeds, but the juice is really good. Okay, this is another one of UCR's very excited. They're very excited about this one. Tango is a seedless mandarin. It is a sport off of the Murcott, the W. Flora Murcott, which is a very good one. A lot of times you'll go to the supermarket and you'll buy this one called Delight. That's a W. Murcott. And if those don't have seeds, a lot of times they're grown in countries like Spain or even California, where they isolate the blocks of those trees, so they can't get pollinated by other mandarins, and so they'll become seedless. But UCR has solved the problem because they basically have the taste of that fruit, and this one never has any seeds, no matter how it gets pollinated. This one will never have seeds in it. So I've sampled this one. This is a very delicious one. Some of the nurseries are selling it now. I know Tango is on the list that you received, and it is a great one, if not one of the best.
Is Valentine's pomelo also on the list of what we?
No, that one has only been released as budwood, so it will take a couple years for the nurserymen to bud it or graft it, and then it will be available. Gold Nugget came out a few years ago, and in my opinion, it is one of the best. It truly is. What I've observed with this one is that if you pick it too early, to me it kind of has a bitterness to the taste. But if you wait till the end of the season, like right now I'm picking them and they're delicious. You really don't get any better than this one, and it's seedless. It never has any seeds, no matter what other mandarins are around it to pollinate it. It's not a loose leaf, not loose leaf, but loose skin where you can peel it as easily as some of them, like Dempsey's, but it's worth it. It really is a good flavor. Finis Adea is the commercial variety that they grow in Morocco. I'm currently growing this one at my property, and I like it a lot. It's got a unique flavor to it, but it is seedy. So this is another one where in Morocco they might isolate it to get it to be seedless. Pixie, another great one. I really can't say enough about Pixie. There's some farmers in Ojai, which is just north of Los Angeles, and they have really taken to Pixie. Everybody is growing only Pixie up there, and it's number one as far as quantity. Pixies are grown in the Ojai area more than anywhere else in California. And it's a great one. Seedless, originally you'll find a few seeds, easy to peel, they're very good. I know I said I like a lot of them, but my number one choice, if I could only have one citrus, it would probably be the Kishu. Seedless, they're basically like candy. They're small, but they peel very easy, so within a second you can have the fruit, pop it in your mouth, and it's essentially like nature's candy. If you have one of these, all your neighbors are going to be asking for them if you give them a sample. This tree is from UCR, and when we were there, the members just couldn't stop eating them. They're just so good. So if you ever find this at a nursery, I'd suggest that you buy it. They are kind of uncommon, but they grow them quite a bit in Japan. This is the number one mandarin that they like in Japan. Yes?
Is there a bearing period?
Excuse me?
What is that fruiting period, time of year?
When we were there a couple months ago at UCR, they were kind of at the end of their season. So it seems to be around winter time and then to the early spring. Yes?
Maddox Nursery in Baldwin has this one.
What was that?
Nursery at
okay.
End of this.
Right, but he has that in larger sizes, I assume, like 15-gallon size?
15 and 5.
Fives? He has it in fives? Okay.
Guys, I've got them on special for $75 right now, the best trees you've ever seen.
Okay, Paul has them at Merritt Mountain Nursery, so go see him for Kishu. They are hard to find, so, but they're well worth it. Everybody should have one of these in their yard. Lee is actually, I believe it's a Tangor, which is a cross between an orange and a mandarin. And this is one that I like a lot too. It has a very nice, spicy kind of flavor. A little bit hard to peel, and it does have seeds, but it's an excellent one. Go back to that one more time. Well, yeah, let's go to the next slide. 88-2 and 88-3 haven't gotten names yet from UCR, so they just have them as names. I did bring one fruit over there so you can see what it looks like on the outside. But this is excellent. This actually, the parents on this, Lee is one of the parents on this one, and Nova, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really good. Basically seedless, you may find a few, but it's pretty good. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of the hybrids that UCR developed a few years ago, and these are all real winners. They're called the TDEs, and it's number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And as you can see, Temple is one variety that they cross it with, Dancy, as I mentioned. And then another good one is Encore. So it's a 3-way cross of, let's go to, and by the way, there's number 1, UCR determined that it's so similar to number 2 that they never released TDE number 1. So it's essentially number 2 and number 1 are the same. Go ahead. Number 2 is known as Shasta Gold. Seedless, very good, peels very nice. Number 3 is Tahoe Gold. They're all very similar. They're all winners, really. And number 4 is Yosemite Gold. This is one of the parents of those Temple. It's a Tangor, also known as Royal. I like this one because it's more of a spicy flavor. But this one is a natural hybrid that was discovered in Jamaica. And it's a little bit more frost sensitive than most of them. So you need a warm spot in your garden. If you live in San Diego itself, you'll be fine. But if you live out in the outskirts, maybe some of the low-lying areas of El Cajon, you may need to give it a warmer spot. Some of the oranges, Cara Cara is one of my favorites because of this nice pinkish orange flavor. It has a really good flavor. It's a navel. It was a sport off of the Washington navel, discovered in Venezuela. There was a area down there called the Cara Cara Hacienda, so it got the name Cara Cara. Smith Red, currently growing this one right now, and it's a real winner. This was discovered quite recently, I believe it was 1988. It has an interesting story behind it. This was a sport off of the Valencia orange, the juicing orange of California. And there's a lady there in Moore Park, which is north of LA. She noticed that some of the fruit on her tree, they were red like this, and she was convinced that her neighbor was trying to poison her or something, going out there in the middle of the night, injecting these with something red. So she called the agricultural commissioner. They came out and took a look at it and said, no, nobody's trying to poison you. This is a sport. And so from that tree, they propagated it, and now you can get the Smith Red. It's a good flavor. It's a good tree. Next one. And that leads us to some of the blood oranges. Morrow is the one that seems to color up the most, for me at least here in San Diego County. The next one is Tarraco, which colors up also, not quite as much, but my opinion, the Tarraco has a better flavor. And what I like to do is if I make orange juice with other oranges, I'll just add one or two of the Moros or the Tarracos, and that will give it a nice color to the juice. When I was at UCR, I experienced this one. It's called the Breen, and that was discovered as a sport off of the regular Tarraco in 1994 by a gentleman named Mr. Breen. And I've never seen a blood orange this dark, and that's exactly how dark they are at UCR. Now, they do get a little bit colder in Riverside than we do, but I think it would still do well here. Limes. Kaffir lime is an interesting one. It's used in Thai food, and you don't use the fruit on this one usually. You use the leaf. It has a nice flavor. Put it in dishes, grind it up, make very thin strips. It's kind of overpowering, so you just use a little bit. The Australian finger lime is an interesting one. It's not actually in the same genus as the other ones. It's micro citrus because the leaves are so small on this. It has a typical Mexican lime taste. When you cut these open, the lime sacs burst out. This is almost looks like caviar or fish roe, fish eggs, and essentially it's a conversation piece. Bear's lime. I have bear's lime growing on my property, and 12 months out of the year, 365 days out of the year, I can go out there and pick limes. It's just amazing. It's one thing about citrus. You really get bang for your buck with citrus. Every single day of the year, you can be picking some type of citrus. So great. Sweet lime. This is one that gets mixed results. Some people don't see the point of the sweet lemons and sweet lemons, sweet oranges, or sweet limes. I kind of like them. They have no sourness to them. It's a real insipid flavor, but they make good flavorings. You could put them in drinks, things like that. Next. Bergamot is one that I don't have, and it's kind of hard to find. This is the lemon or sour orange. They use the peel, and it's the flavoring that they put in Earl Grey tea, and also make perfumes out of it. In Italy, they have a big industry. That's where it's mainly grown, is Italy. Sweet lemon is, again, just like the sweet lime. It has no sourness to it. And they've done some DNA studies. They found that the sweet lemon actually has, as one of the parents, the bergamot. So if you can't find bergamot, like I can't, I'm growing this and using it as the flavoring for Earl Grey tea. So I'll slice some of this and put it in regular tea to give it that Earl Grey flavor. Next. This is an interesting one that is used by chefs around the world. It gives a very nice Asian flavor to Asian food, I should say. So it's called yuzu, and it's kind of hard to find, but it's well worth it. It has a very distinct flavor. Now, there are also some man-made crosses that they've done. One is where they've crossed a lime with a kumquat. You get the lime quat. So you have kind of the benefit of both. It's a lime flavor, small fruit. Mandarin quat is one of my favorites because it's a very attractive tree. It's a very nice ornamental. This picture doesn't really do justice to it, but it seems like almost 12 months out of the year, you have a small orange fruit, glossy green leaves that are very dark, and it's a very attractive tree. Plus the added bonus of having nice fruit. Kind of sour, a little bit more sour than most of the kumquats, but it's bigger.
Does it have the sweet rind like a kumquat?
Yes, you do have the sweet rind to it, so the rind is actually sweeter than the inside. But it would be nice if it was a little bit sweeter, in my opinion. It's good for marmalade, that's for sure. I've made that. Of all the kumquats, this is my favorite, the miwa. The fruit is more round than the typical nagami, and all the kumquats don't get to be very large. They're small bushes or large bushes or small trees. But this one is very, very tasty, especially if you let them stay on the tree longer and you wait till post-season to eat these. They're just delicious. They have no sourness to them all. They're very sweet. This is a common one that most people have, nagami. A little bit too sour for my taste, but it does have a good use for marmalade. And this is one that UCR has. This was a chance seedling of a nagami kumquat. So it's very similar to the nagami. I'd say when I tasted this was a little bit sweeter than the nagami, and of course it has no seeds, so you just pop them in your mouth. So I rate this one as second to miwa. This is the tree at UCR right here. Next. And desert lime is one that hasn't been released from UCR yet, but shows potential because it's very drought tolerant. In its native Australia, these grow with no water at all. And it's a great ornamental, I think, because it almost looks like a weeping willow or something, how it weeps. If they could maybe use this as a root stock for drought tolerant farming of citrus in areas that don't get irrigated, I think it shows quite a bit of potential. So that's the end of the presentation. That obviously wasn't all of them, but some of them.
Great. Dave, you want to step there and while we switch over, if you want to answer any questions?
Sure.
Folks, now a lot of the things Dave's showing were on the list of availability for special purchase. Again, some of the things have sold out because the availability changed very quickly, but we have a current availability list, and if you're interested in some of the things, one of the sweet lemons that's being offered was developed by Tom Spellman, who was with our nursery for many years. And he says that his sweet lemon is actually sweet, not just insipid, but actually sweet.
Good.
So, yeah, you might want to take a look. But if you want to ask Dave some questions while we make the switch here, go ahead, Dave.
Yes.
What did you bud your Valentine onto?
I budded it onto trifoliate orange. A lot of times if you buy a citrus tree and for whatever reason, if the top dies on it, you'll notice the suckers that come out will be kind of a weird looking leaf to them. 3 leaves, and they'll have a whole bunch of thorns. What a lot of people do is if the top dies, they just dig the tree out and throw it away. Well, if you want to take the time, you can just convert that rootstock to whatever variety you want. You can try it again, so don't throw it away. Yes?
The desert lime, what is it? It doesn't have a wonderful fruit, or is it?
It does have a fruit. It is not particularly that great. It's a small fruit. Yes?
Is Valentine available anywhere? Can we go up to the riverside and get some wood?
You can get the budwood from, I believe it's CCPP, the citrus clonal program. They're going to be offering budwood again in June. So if you go online, then you can order it and they'll deliver it to you in June. There is a cost for it. Yes, Ron.
Hey, can you comment a little bit on how the procedure on a citrus becoming a commercial variety? You see all these good fruit trees, but you don't see the fruit from the market. What would make it a commercial variety? I think a lot of these would.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of it just has to do with marketability and people's perception. Unfortunately, I like a lot of the blood oranges, but for some people, I guess because they're called blood oranges, people shy away from the general public. But there's there's so many factors in marketing. How well does it ship? What is the shelf life of it? That kind of thing. I'm not an expert on it, but that's just my 2 cents.
We're going to have Dave here, this evening at break. So thank you very much, Dave.
You're welcome.
And please feel free to ask any questions. I'm going to go over a quick listing of some of the common pests and some of the uncommon pests here. So starting out, unfortunately, I didn't know we weren't going to be able to see the subtitle here. Common citrus pests and diseases. We're going to start out with those that produce honeydew producing insects. Honeydew is the excrement of many sucking insects. When the insect sucks your plant, it creates its waste product. It's a sticky, high sugar product called honeydew, and it gets all over the leaves of your plants, it gets all over the sidewalk, your car, and results of this honeydew is often the occurrence of sooty mold. Sooty mold is this black stuff that's on the leaves of your plant. People think their leaves are dirty or shipped from the sky. No, this is a fungus, and it's not necessary to deal with the fungus because the fungus isn't hurting your plant. The problem with the fungus, however, is it coats the leaves and blocks the sunlight from the leaf. And now the plant cannot photosynthesize or produce food, so indirectly, sooty mold is harmful because it blocks sunlight. But it's not really hurting the plant directly, and it's not the real problem. The problem is the sucking insects and the honeydew. Get rid of the sucking insects, you get rid of the honeydew. Get rid of the honeydew, you get rid of the sooty mold. So sometimes people want to use a fungicide or have concerns of the sooty mold. Well, get rid of the insects, and you get rid of the sooty mold. Along with the sooty mold, honeydew often promotes ants. Ants of many types, especially the Argentine ants, farm honeydew-producing insects and eat the honeydew that they produce. They will move these insects from place to place, tree to tree, area to area. They groom them, they protect them from predators, and they'll even sit there and pet them to encourage them to produce more honeydew. Because they are protecting them from predators, the ants are a problem. And certainly, the ants increase the number of these sucking insects. Again, the ants aren't doing any problem to the tree. You say, well, I want to spray my tree for ants. Well, no, again, they're not the problem. The sucking insects are the problem. But because they protect these insects, we do need to control ants. And how do we control ants? Well, we can use a number of different products. If you have ants in your garden, so what? They're recyclers. They're important to the ecosystem. But having them in your trees farming these insects is not good. And so what do? Well, one thing we can do is we can make a barrier to keep the ants out of the trees, and thereby the insects are more vulnerable to predators. Tanglefoot is a commonly used product. It's a sticky, gooey paste that as the ants try to get up into the tree, they get stuck and they can't get into the tree. Tanglefoot is a high maintenance product, however. It'll get covered in dust and dirt and dead little ant bodies, and the ants will make a bridge and climb right over it. So periodically, and that can be very frequently, you need to come back with a stick and roughen up the surface of the tanglefoot to make it sticky again. Don't put tanglefoot directly on the bark of your trees, especially thin bark trees like citrus can be damaged by the tanglefoot. So wrap the tree with something and put the tanglefoot on that something. What should you put on? Doesn't really matter. Some people use gauze bandage, some people use aluminum foil, some people use saran wrap, anything that protects the bark of the tree. Old stockings, old pair of socks, whatever you want. Should be able to be wrapped around the tree in such a way the ants can't crawl underneath it. And it doesn't really matter what it is, paraffin, anything. Also beneficial if it's stretchy so that it doesn't girdle your tree. To deal with the ants, baits are the best ways to control ants because baits are taken back to the nest and they kill off the entire colony. Contact poisons kill the individual, but you might kill a few, meanwhile the queen is making a lot more. For baits to be effective, they need to be slow acting. They're not going to give you immediate control. So you're going to have to be able to live with the ants for a while until it kills off the colony. They take the bait back to the nest, and they feed it to the whole colony. You want it to be slow acting so that it kills off everybody, not just a few. And usually it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to kill off the entire colony. Hydromethyldon is the active ingredient that the leading researcher from UCLA in ants recommends. A number of products have hydromethyldon in them. Amdrol and Grant States to name 2, but there are others. One note, if you're going to use tanglefoot to control ants in your trees, before you put tanglefoot on your trees, it's a good idea to go out with a soap and water spray and wash your trees off, get all the ants out of the tree before you put the tanglefoot on. The reason for this is that ants are pretty ingenious. I learned this the hard way. I went out one day and I didn't wash my trees off because I didn't know any better, and I put tanglefoot around all my trees. You know, as you saw in the previous slide, tanglefoot is kind of a yellowish brown. About an hour or two later, I was walking through my yard and all my trees had green bands on their trunk. And I said, green bands? What the heck is that? I didn't put anything green on my trees. And I went and I looked. And what had happened is that the ants below the tanglefoot couldn't get up the tree, but the ants above the tanglefoot couldn't get down. And so what did the ants in the top do? They went up into the top of the tree, they grabbed the aphids, which were green, they carried them down to the tanglefoot, they threw them into the tanglefoot. And the tanglefoot was green because all the little ants all the little aphids were stuck in the tanglefoot, and the ants were crawling right over the aphids. And the aphids were going, I thought you liked me. And the ants were saying, shut up. And they made a bridge. So wash them out of the tree before you put it on.
Tom?
Yes.
I've noticed that ants tend to explode in the summer when it gets warm.
Absolutely. All insect populations.
Is it a good idea to maybe start baiting them like in June before it gets really hot? Can you keep the populations down?
Argentine ants are active year-round and they're attracted to sweet baits year-round. So, you know, whenever they're a problem, put out a bait that has a sugar in it and they'll be attracted to it. And sure, it's always better to control populations before they get out of hand. Because again, it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to be effective. Don't try to kill all the ants in the world, just the ones that are causing problems. Aphids are pretty familiar to most of us. The big problem with aphids is that they're sucking insects, they create honeydew, they create sooty mold, and they distort the leaf growth on the new growth of your tree to a point that the tree doesn't grow. When you see this curling of the leaves, look closely. If there's little tiny insects and ants, it's most likely aphids. Pretty easy to control. I'll talk about some products in just a moment. Aphids have these little tailpipes which excrete honeydew. That's how you can always identify an aphid is by their tailpipe. And what people don't understand about aphids is that aphids are pretty remarkable in their ability to reproduce. They are born pregnant. Most of the year they are all female. There are no males. And they don't need any males around to reproduce because every aphid, which is a female, has within its body an unborn female pregnant aphid, which within its body has an unborn pregnant female aphid. And so their ability to repopulate very, very quickly is amazing. People will often say, well, I used the spray and it didn't work. I still have aphids. Well, it does work. It just may come back almost overnight. So consistency is very important when dealing with aphids. Keep after them. You miss a few, you're going to have a whole new population. Closely related to aphids are mealybugs. These have waxy coatings on their body. They excrete honeydew. And that waxy coating oftentimes protects them from pesticides. Sprays aren't real effective sometimes because they never contact the insect. They just coat the wax. If you see these really big mealybugs that are actually moving on your tree, and you can watch them crawl, those probably aren't mealybugs. That's a beneficial insect called a mealybug destroyer. It looks just like a mealybug, but mealybugs don't move around. They stay in place and they suck your plant. The mealybug destroyer is a predator, and he cruises around looking for mealybugs to eat. Because ants fight off predators and will kill predators, this is a pretty good disguise. The mealybug destroyer, which looks just like a mealybug to an ant, goes around undisturbed by the ants. The ants just think it's a big mealybug. And so do people sometimes. But if it's a really big mealybug and you can actually watch it move, it's not a mealybug. It's a mealybug destroyer, and it's a good guy. Oftentimes when you have mealybugs, there are mealybug destroyers there too. Whitefly is another honeydew-producing insect. Many of us are familiar with whitefly. They're mostly on the underside of the leaves. They produce honeydew. You get sooty mold. The giant whitefly is a problem on many, many plants. And the giant whitefly is named because it's actually a larger insect than most whitefly. Very easily identified. If you look at the top right slide, the spiral pattern of eggs is a very easy way to tell giant whitefly before it actually produces this cottony wax. This is giant whitefly. It will occur on your citrus, as will the woolly whitefly. And woolly whitefly also attacks tropical guavas. The woolly whitefly doesn't produce as much of the cotton. Always on the underside of the leaf, you see this stuff that sometimes people think is a fungus or a mold. This is the woolly whitefly. Again, a honeydew-producing insect, you will have ants.
And what do you do for woolly whitefly?
I'll talk to you about all these guys in just a second because this is our last honeydew-producing insect I'm going to mention. And this is pretty noteworthy today. This is the Asian citrus psyllid. This first came into San Diego in 2008, discovered in South Bay Terrace on September 2nd, 2008. And this little insect is very scary because this insect which came to us about a little over a year ago. It is a sucking insect. It produces honeydew. By itself isn't a big problem. It's pretty easy to control, same as all these other soft-bodied sucking insects. However, this little insect, which feeds with its head down, and has its little tail up in the air like this, which I want you to pay attention, because if you have these guys, you need to contact the ag department to let them know that you have them. We just want to keep track of it. The very important thing about this insect is that it is the carrier of a disease called Hong Long Bing. Hong Long Bing, or citrus yellowing disease, or yellow dragon disease, can destroy the entire citrus industry here in California. Luckily, we do not have this disease in California yet. But worldwide, Hong Long Bing is one of the most important diseases on citrus throughout the world. It is a killer of trees. There is no cure. Once the Asian citrus psyllid feeds on a tree that has Hong Long Bing, it carries that disease within its entire life. And any other citrus tree it feeds on, it gives the disease. Once the tree has Hong Long Bing, there is no cure. It will take between 2 and 5 years for the tree to die. In the meantime, your fruit will taste like turpentine, and the tree will die. No ifs, ands, or buts. Right now, every county in Florida that grows citrus has both the Asian citrus psyllid and Hong Long Bing. It can destroy the entire economy. Just so that you know, that wonderful Florida orange juice that all of us are told to drink for its health value has been treated 8 times a year with a systemic poison known as imidacloprid in order to try to control the occurrence of this pest. The Ag Department and the USDA says imidacloprid, which is a systemic poison, you're basically poisoning your tree so that when the insect feeds on it, it's killed by the poison in the tree. That poison, the Ag Department says, is safe. And they say it doesn't affect our health. It's up to you to choose if you want to believe that. I've heard too many stories where they say 10 years later, oh, sorry, you're going to die. Agent Orange, DDT, and a whole bunch of other nasty things they told us was safe. Only years later they say, oh, sorry. I'm not convinced. Hong Long Bing isn't here yet. It is in Mexico. And chances of it moving up into California is pretty good. This is the reason why all citrus trees today that you buy must have a ACP, or Asian citrus psyllid, tag on. They're telling you that these trees were treated with a systemic poison in order to try to prevent the spread of Asian citrus psyllid. And before they can be sold, they have to be treated. No ifs, ands, or buts.
What do they use?
Imidacloprid.
What's the true lifespan of that product?
Imidacloprid is said to stay in the plant system for about a year.
Didn't that kill the bees in Spain or something like that?
Well, there are some discussions on that, but we're not sure.
Tom, why are they making us retreat every 3 months then?
They are, as a grower, you have to, again, to try to prevent the spread of this disease.
Right, but if it lasts a year, why are we doing
Well, try to build up that concentration to a point that they are going to stop the spread of the insect.
We'll eat that fruit? I don't think so.
Well, and Paul made a good point. Are you going to eat the fruit? I would choose not to. I would take the fruit off for the first year. But, you know, by law it is allowed and that is what they have to do. So just want to make you guys all aware of what's going on. It's important. If this disease gets to California, it can wipe out the California citrus industry. So it's important. But just be aware of what's going on.
How long has it been in Asia, the disease?
Pardon me?
How long has it been in its native area, the disease?
The disease has been in citrus growing areas for, 100, well, I don't know how long it's been around.
And so do they have naturally?
No.
Nothing growing.
No, what they have to keep replanting, because the trees get infected, and when they get infected, the fruit is inedible and they die. So what happens is when an area is infected, they go and they bulldoze it, they burn it, they plant new trees, and they treat them with a poison. Try and keep the spread of the insect from getting to all the trees.
So is it in Brazil also?
Yes, it is.
So all our trees from Brazil is also?
Yes, it is.
Theoretically, there should be disease resistance, it's just that it hasn't been researched or bred by the Chinese or Indian governments where citrus is related to.
That's right.
Are we doing it research?
Theoretically, in modern standards, there should be some, but
We haven't done any research on it, we just don't know. We just don't know. There probably is, but we just don't know.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like on your leaves. Very easily misdiagnosed. Looks like a lot of other things. The only way to tell if you have Hong bean is to have the fruit or plant taken to a lab and tested. And the real identifier is that nice citrus you used to have, tasted really good, is oftentimes lopsided and it tastes like turpentine. And the tree died.
Tom, a quick question. On the midichlorophene, if the psyllid bites a tree, and I guess the bacterium gets into the leaf before the psyllid dies, right? So
That's correct.
So that's not going to work.
That's correct, not on that tree. But it's going to stop the psyllid from getting to another tree. And so that's the goal. That's the goal. And the California website, www.californiacitrusthreat.org, is where you should report it if you have evidence of Asian citrus psyllid. We need to keep track. I'd encourage any of you, if you think you have that in test, to let them know. But a couple of things. Scale insect. This is a honeybee-producing insect as well. Different types of scale. There are soft scale, there are hard scale. Only the soft scale produce honeydew. Scale insects are all female. They don't need males. The babies are developing beneath the body of the mother and spread out in the form of crawlers. Crawlers are mobile for a very short period of time, only a few days before they settle down, stick their mouth part into your tree, and start feeding on your tree. The brown scale, which is one of our more common scales, has multiple generations throughout the year, especially in mild winter years. The two types of soft scale that are most common here are brown scale and black scale. We also have cotton cushion scale. All are honeydew producers. These scale insects that are soft scale normally are on the stems, rarely on the fruit. Those pests that don't produce honeydew include scale insects like citrus red scale. Now, citrus red scale is often hard to see because they're very tiny and they occur in such numbers. A lot of times people think it's just the bark of the tree. There's no honeydew and there's no ants, there's no sooty mold, but in high enough populations they can damage a tree or they can kill young trees. They will occur on the leaves and on the fruit. Scaled insects are not easily controlled. Most poisons, pesticides, and insecticidal soaps are not effective against scale insects unless they are in the crawler stage, which is only for a short period. best way to deal with scale insects is with suffocants such as oils. And what you do is you spray the tree and it coats the insects and prevents them from being able to breathe, and they suffocate and die. One thing that they never tell you on oils is how often you can use it. And for most insects, you need repeat applications to be effective. But if you use oils on your tree anything more than once a month, or if you use oils on your tree when it's very hot or very cold, all the leaves are going to fall off. And then the tree can sunburn, be damaged by sunburn. And if your tree is dirty and has sooty mold or dust and dirt, you put oil on your tree, you seal all that dust and dirt onto the leaves, and the leaves can't breathe. So with oils, the first thing you want to do is wash your tree off, get it good and clean. Then use an oil, spray the tree entirely as long as it's not too hot or too cold. And if you want to follow up, use a paintbrush and paint the bark or the scale insect, but don't spray the leaves. Anything more than once a month, otherwise all the leaves will fall off. And that's a pretty effective control. Some other non-honeydew producing insects include mites. Tiny, tiny, tiny little insects. You rarely see them, but they can cause damage to your fruit. If your fruit looks rusty or brownish, like in the top right corner, that's citrus rust mite. Citrus bud mite on the bottom right will cause your fruit to look really funny. Another tiny insect are citrus thrips, and they'll cause your fruit to look silvery. Both mite damage and thrips damage isn't really harming the fruit. You can still eat your fruit, but in severe enough numbers, they can also affect the foliage and health of the tree. Good idea not to let their populations get way out of hand. And how do we deal with these soft-bodied insects? Well, here you go. This is my preferred method, soap and water sprays. Most pesticides out there that are labeled for control of insects work. But most pesticides out there, with the exception of imidacloprid, are contact poisons. They kill what they touch. If you don't touch the insect, you don't kill the insect. And most of us don't want to get poison all over us, understandably. Even if it's a botanical, like pyrethrin, it's still a poison. And so we stand over here and we spray our tree over there and we spray the outside, but we miss a lot of the inside. And when we miss those insects, they're not affected by the poison, but we are also killing off predators. And so those populations bounce right back. Soap and water sprays, however, and for insect control I have to recommend insecticidal soaps to you. You can do a more thorough job as an applicator. If you get soap all over you, so what? Go and wash it off. Soap in your eyes burns, so don't get it in your eyes, wear a protective eye cover. But because you can do a more thorough job, you get better control. Soaps also help to wash off the sooty mold and the honeydew, which none of your poisons will do. So soaps I prefer using, one, because they do as good of a job as any other contact poison. Two, because you can be more thorough and thereby get better control without the risk associated with other pesticides. And three, because they also clean the tree and get rid of the sooty mold and honeydew. And because of those benefits and the fact they're just as effective, I prefer using soaps in a hose end sprayer. You want to use a hose end sprayer because you want a forceful spray to knock the insects off, to knock the sooty mold off, to knock the honeydew and dust and dirt and grime off. Don't use a real gentle spray. It doesn't work as well. People will often ask, well, can I use regular Dawn or Ivory or Palmolive? actually, I have to tell you, for insect control, no. Because by law, for insect control and any pesticide, it has to be labeled, and your Dawn or Ivory or Palmolive is not labeled as a pesticide. Now, will it work? Yes. And what I can tell you is it's always beneficial to wash your tree off before using any pesticide. So use your Ivory or Dr. Bronner's or Palmolive in a hose end sprayer at a rate of about 2 or 3 teaspoons of soap per gallon of water. Turn your hose on full blast, go out and be very, very thorough. Wash your tree off once a week for about 3 weeks. Get it good and clean. Oh, and by the way, it'll also kill all those soft-bodied insects we just talked about, except scale, as effectively as any other insecticidal soap or any other pesticide. Oops! Didn't mean to do that. I was washing my tree off. Sorry, insects, you're dead. So that's an option you have. You can use those other cleansers to clean your tree, which is what they're labeled for, but specifically for pest control, by law, it needs to be an insecticidal soap.
Would you recommend time of day or time of year?
For 12 years, we used soaps as our primary method of pest control at Civic Tree Farms whenever it was necessary, irregardless of time of day, time of year, time of month, irregardless. Yes.
Is there anything in insecticidal soap beyond the soap that's in?
Insecticidal soaps have some penetrants which penetrate the waxy coating of the insect's body a little more effectively. Potassium salts and fatty acids.
There's no toxins in it,
No. No. We also have to deal with caterpillars. There are a number of caterpillars that will eat your foliage, your leaves, your flowers, your fruit. BT works very well against it. Again, a non-poison. They're usually fairly minor in their numbers, but if you have a sufficient number of them, you can spray your tree with BT or spinosad. Both are not poisons, and they do a good job against caterpillars. The Diapepes root weevil was a really big thing before the Asian citrus came into town. We were really up in arms about it. This particular beetle eats the foliage of your leaves and attacks over 200 species of plants. The adult eating your leaves isn't a big deal, but its caterpillar, its larva, not a caterpillar, it's larva, it's a beetle, not a butterfly, drops down into the soil. This is what the damage looks like on your leaves. The notching on the edge of the leaves, the excrement on the leaves. These are usually indicators of Diapepes root weevil. If the leaves are stuck together and you peel the leaves apart and there are eggs there, those are the eggs of Diapepes root weevil, and an easy way to identify it. The white grub, which looks like many other white grubs, can kill trees. They drop down into the soil. They can live up to 2 years in the soil, and they eat roots. And they can occur at high enough numbers to kill plants. As I said, before the Asian citrus psyllid was here, we were making a big effort to keep away and limit the spread of Diapepes root weevil. Because the Asian citrus psyllid is so much more of a threat to our industry, they're no longer doing anything about Diapepes. It is mostly in the coastal regions, not so much of a problem inland, but there's a list on the left. I don't know why it's not easily read, but you can go to the county website and get a listing of progress in Diapepes root weevil. Yeah.
How many of those would you consider bad, either in the weevil or the larvae stage?
The Diapepes root weevil is bad. It is a killer of trees.
So by
It's all a matter of tolerance. A few I live with.
Yeah.
Many, you have to do something about it before it kills your trees.
And once they're in the soil, how do you take care of them?
Good question, because most of the insecticides don't penetrate the soil well. Systemics are generally what's recommended in getting the clover, which is a systemic. And with systemics, I'm going to talk just quickly about this little guy because it's a big issue for a lot of people. And this is the Asian citrus psyllid. Citrus leaf miner, excuse me. Citrus leaf miner came into the county about 2000, and it affects citrus throughout all of California. The moth, which is rarely seen, lays its eggs on the surface of the leaf. The egg hatches. The larva chews into the leaf and crawls around inside of the leaf, making these tunnels. When it's mature, it comes out of the leaf and turns into a pupa, which then becomes an adult, and they lay more eggs and fly around to attack more citrus. You can have up to 8 generations a year. Up to 8 generations a year. One generation takes somewhere between 3 and 7 weeks to complete, depending on the weather. The warmer it is, the faster they complete their life cycle. Now, the big issue with Asian citrus psyllid is it attacks the new growth. It only attacks the new growth. It doesn't affect old foliage. And if it occurs in enough of a number, it can affect all the foliage to the point the plant doesn't grow. This is not a problem for big old trees. If they're a large tree, the damage is usually insignificant. And the trees produce fruit fine, and the trees grow fine, and it's not a big issue except that it looks ugly. On young trees, however, it can be a problem because if they can't put on new growth, they can't grow. And for nurseries, it's a big problem because people don't want to buy trees that have all these ugly looking leaves on them. So most of the time, nurseries, if they have a problem, are treating with imidacloprid, the systemic. You will hear, this is what it looks like. What is the best recommendation for citrus leaf miner? Do nothing. Live with it. Because there are natural predators. You can see the picture in the bottom right corner of a natural parasite that parasitizes the citrus leaf miner. And in a few years, he's going to take care of this problem for us. So for now, live with it. Unless you have a really young tree and you want the tree to grow. And there I might use a systemic like imidacloprid and just not eat the fruit for a year. Yes.
But if you have things like capper lines, which you want to have the leaves, then that's a problem. Because you don't want to have capper line.
The question was, if I'm using the leaves, is it a problem? No, why? You can still use the leaves. Not hurting the leaves at all, you can still use it, so you're getting a little protein. If you eat ketchup, you're getting a whole lot of protein.
David Archer said that he likes to force a lot of growth early in the spring on his roots, his potted citrus trees, and get all the young new growth maturing before the population of the leaf miner builds up, and sort of avoid.
Yeah, the first flush of growth in the spring oftentimes is not really affected very much by leaf miner. The leaf miner builds up as the summer progresses and becomes more of a problem on summer new growth rather than in spring new growth. Absolutely.
Can I just pick the leaves and throw the leaves away? And
You don't really want to pick the leaves and throw the leaves away. The leaves are making food for the tree.
Well, I mean, if it's a big mature tree, can I just trim off some of the leaves and throw them off?
When you trim off the leaves, then what you're going to do is you're going to stimulate new growth. And so you're going to get a worse problem by doing that.
The do with some size needs to matters.
It's really better just to do nothing and just let nature take its course. Now you're going to hear a lot of horticulturalists recommend things like spinosad. And spinosad is effective, but you also need to be aware that spinosad is only effective before the citrus leaf miner gets into your tree. So the only time it's effective is when the egg hatches, the larva chews its way in, and then if there's spinosad on the leaf, before it gets in, it'll kill it. Spinosad only remains effective on the surface of the leaf for 1 to 2 weeks. So to get effective control, you would have to spray every 1 to 2 weeks. By law, you can only spray 8 times. So at most, you're going to get 16 weeks of control. Meanwhile, the leaf miner is flying and laying eggs for 6 to 8 months of the year. So yeah, you may have control for 6 to 8 weeks, but the rest of the year you'll still lay eggs on it. You can time your spinosad when your flush of growth is coming out, and that may be effective. The timing is very important. They're also using imidacloprid as a systemic. Again, it gets into the fruit, so be aware of that. A couple of things and then I'll break off. Snails and slugs, big problem. They are excellent climbers. And they'll get up in your citrus trees and eat your foliage, eat your fruit. They can also damage the bark of the tree. The brown garden snail, or European brown garden snail, is our most common garden snail we deal with. But there's also the white snail for some areas of San Diego County, a much smaller snail with a very hard shell. Excellent, excellent climber. And they'll get up in your citrus and can totally defoliate your trees. Most snail baits that are out there contain a rather dangerous poison called metaldehyde. All products out there that are using metaldehyde are potentially dangerous to dogs, cats, children, and wildlife. Every year, lots of animals are poisoned and killed by metaldehyde poisoning. And if your dog or cat eats metaldehyde, if you can save it and get it to the vet in time, he's going to be at the vet for about a week. It's a very horrible way to die. And if they can save him, it's going to cost you about $1,000. It's a very fast, very effective poison against snails and slugs. It kills them instantly. But also potentially dangerous. This product by Ortho has a chemical in it called bitrix that makes the bait taste very bitter. And the idea is children or pets might spit it out. But if they don't, it's still metaldehyde, it can still be very harmful. However, a few years ago, we found out that snails and slugs are very susceptible to iron phosphate. And iron phosphate is a very effective killer of snails and slugs. It is also very low toxicity on mammals and birds. And for your dog or cat to eat enough of this for it to harm them, they would have to eat pounds of it. So it's very, very safe. When iron phosphate is eaten by a snail or slug, they stop feeding immediately. They crawl around for about a week or so. So you're not going to go and have instant gratification and see dead snails. And a lot of people think, oh, well, the snail's still crawling around. It didn't work. Yes, it did. But it works different. They're going to crawl around for about a week, and then they're going to go hide out, and they're going to die where they're hiding. Really neat thing about iron phosphate, as it breaks down, iron and phosphorus are plant nutrients. So it works as a fertilizer as well as a snail and slug control.
Where do you
not going to have any effect. Iron phosphate would have to be pounds to be harmful to animals or children. Also very effective snail control, slug control is copper banding. Snails and slugs cannot pass over a copper barrier. Reacts to the mucous membrane, forms an electrical charge they cannot cross over. You can make copper banding, get copper banding at nurseries. On the left, you can see all the snails, they just stop dead. It's a little bit expensive, but very effective, and when it tarnishes with weather, all you have to do is go out with some steel wool, shine it up, and it's every bit as effective. However, go to your local hardware store, Lowe's, Dixie Line, wherever, and buy copper flashing, which is in the building department, and they use it for roofing material, and it works just as well, and it's a lot cheaper. And you can go and get copper flashing and use it in the same way. Works very well.
How about copper wire?
Wire is not wide enough for the snail, for it to be an effective barrier. It has to be wide enough for the snail to have to crawl over. So wire doesn't work very well. Decollet snails or killer snails are predators of brown garden snail. They don't work very well against the white snail. They eat young, they eat eggs. These guys don't climb trees. So if you have snails in your trees, it doesn't help you. They also will eat young seedlings and decaying fruit. So sometimes people that have vegetable gardens have problems because they say, oh, the decollet snails are eating my